For the record, will you please state your name?
My name is Jebediah Stanfield.
May I call you Jesse, Mr. Stanfield?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, son. Now, I know this is difficult, but will you please tell us what you were doing at approximately 5:30 p.m. on September 14th, 2011?
I was raised up in the top drive, so I'd have been about 90 feet above the rig floor, tripping pipe on the neighboring rig when I heard the loudest explosion you ever heard in your life or mine.
And in that moment, what did you think had happened?
I knew exactly what had happened, because I could see a twisting inferno of smoke and flame from the neighboring rig about 3/4 of a mile away. It's a black cloud from the earth to the sky. I snapped a shot on my cell phone.
You please describe your actions, son, immediately following this explosion now?
Well, there wasn't many of us around, for miles, really. One of our guys is yelling, there's men over there! And my rig hand had left the controls to look at, and I had to holler at him to get him to lower me down. Once I got there, we gathered up a whole bunch of first aid supplies and fire extinguishers as fast as we could and drove over in a big old F-250. It was me, my company man, and another roughneck whose name I can't recall.
About how long did it take you to reach that site?
No more than 3 or 4 minutes.
Thank you, son. Now, will you please describe what you saw and what you experienced?
Hell on earth. Like walking into a combat zone in a horror movie. Warped metal, burning oil, the smell of melted rubber. You haven't heard a man scream until you heard a man on fire. Smaller explosions that would have brought you to your knees in everyday life were still going off. People were yelling from different directions, and it was disorienting and hard to know where to go. The rig was buckled on the verge of collapse. It was hot as a forge for half a mile around.
And how did you decide what to do? Let me rephrase this. Jesse, what was your next course of action?
It was more like a course of reaction. Instinct just took over. And what they say is true about time standing still. I can't remember a lot of my past with clarity because everything from that day just overclouds my mind. But the explosion and everything that happened that day, I can recall in detail, like slow motion replay in 3D.
Well, you encountered Doug Hischlin first, is that correct?
Yes, sir. As we approached their site, I saw Doug, their operator, coming up in a wheat field, coming up out of the coulee. He was naked, except for his underwear, which he was holding on to with his hands. His skin was charred and blistered, and he stumbled towards us in shock. My company man asked him what happened. He said, "Our fucking rig blew up. Go help them other guys. They're worse."
And did you?
I did. My company man guided him over to the truck, and as he did, I saw the back of his body was burned even worse. What I thought were strings hanging off of his gloves was the remnants of his skin hanging off of him. It was horrible.
And then what happened?
Mr. Williams, I hope you understand this is a very hard thing to do.
Son, I can't even imagine. Just please know that your statement today will help everyone who was affected by this explosion.
Changed my whole life in every way.
Oh, fuck! My boots are fucking burned!
I don't have my knife!
Oh, fuck! Cut the fuck off, man. There's tools in the shed!
Oh, the shit's gone, man, and I don't have my tools!
Oh, fuck.
How many people on this rig?
I need some fucking water for my legs, man. I'm begging you. And there's a cooler in the back of that truck.
I can't get that cool. That truck's gonna blow any minute. How many guys on this
I
rig?
need some cold water, man. I'm begging you.
Okay, I'm gonna get you loaded on a truck, okay? You just hold on. I'll be right back.
Man, the fucking Derrickman, he's dead. That rig's about to fall on him, and don't leave me here.
Look, motherfucker, you are not the only one here, okay? I'll be right back. Be right back. I never felt the flames, but I'm still burning on the inside. It's like a slow boil that no one can see.
Psychological.
And they don't give settlements for that.
Cases like these, the law is often blind to matters of the heart and the soul.
But what about the mind? Where I come from, that's part of the body.
See, if he'd sustained some sort of injury as a result of this explosion, he could sue for mental anguish, but not by itself. Or if the deceased had been his child or his spouse, his parent, he'd be eligible for a settlement, but the law is also blind to the obvious.
Shit. That's okay. I'll put my faith in a different set of laws now, anyways. I had to get over a small embankment. And then I found Ray, who was burned all to hell, too. His hair and clothes had burned off, and his skin was charred and blistered. I cleared everything out of their company man's truck, and then I had him back it up to Mike Twin and Ray.
Is that how you remember it, Mike?
Well, I remember my boots still smoking, curled up at the tips like the Wicked Witch of the West, and seared to my shins. Jesse couldn't cut them off because he didn't have a knife on him. That's why to this day he carries a boom blade wherever he goes.
And what did he do next?
He lifted Ray and myself into the flatbed. But as he did, skin came off the both of us, like snakes shedding their former selves. And that's why Jesse wears gloves even now. Every time he sees his hands, he sees my charred skin clinging to his own. You know, he tries to wash it off, but it's still there.
Is that true, Jesse?
It came off in my hands like candle wax, and I can still see it and feel it like you'd feel anything else.
You know, the road was bumpy and it had a bad dip in it. So Jesse here, he propped me up into his arms like I was 5 days out of the womb. Well, at that time, the only part of me that was working right was my heart, so I asked Jesse for his cell phone.
He gave me a number to call, but he didn't give me the area code, so I had to try a few more times before he figured it out.
He dialed my wife and he told her there'd been an accident. It was terrible, and she broke down and started screaming, so he handed me the phone. I told her I loved her. But it was horrible. I mean, she knew it was bad.
I grabbed the phone from him because he was making it a lengthy call. I had to apologize, then hang up on her because there was no other way to end the conversation. I mean, Ray was at the doorstep of death, and I wanted to make sure that he got a chance to call home. It was eerie, though, because he was calm as a monk. He gave me his number, and I called it.
He told her there had been an accident. And I remember him saying, "Don't worry about it. I'm okay." But he wasn't okay.
No. But the way he spoke reminded me of a lullaby or something. I mean, it wasn't about the words. He was trying to protect her heart.
He told her he loved her and that she should meet him at the hospital.
We ran into an ambulance. After a few miles, not far from the Missouri River, the EMT got out and passed me the stretcher, so I helped load Twin and strap him down, and then it was my turn to do Ray. Ray was a big man, and I was lifting him with a small female ambulance driver. The craziest thing is that Ray was calm after he spoke to his wife. I mean, he actually helped me by lifting up his butt when we put him on the stretcher. When he put his head back in the stabilizer, she tossed me some straps. And I went to strap his head stabilizer on, and in doing so, I sloughed the skin off of his head as if I'd scalped him. And that's one of the worst dreams I still have because I was looking into his eyes when I did it. In my dreams, he tells me, "Don't worry. I know what you're thinking, but I didn't feel that at all. Don't worry." It's one of those dreams that will occur again and again for me until I pass from this realm into his. A window was open that will never be closed.
Now going back to that night, son. Did you follow him to the hospital?
No. I ran into a deputy on the way back and helped him find the site. The sky was still ablaze, but the roads out to the rigs had no names on them because they were oil roads. You know, like logging roads in the mountains.
And what happened after that?
After that, I returned to my site in my shed where I proceeded to drink until I passed out. I got up and tried to work the next morning, but then Ray's wife called and told me he died in the hospital, and I broke down right there and then. After seeing me like that, my boss sent me home for 5 days to recover. When I returned to North Dakota, I was fired for acting outside the scope of my employment, which I think we covered earlier or later, depending on how you look at it.
And just for clarification, Jesse, who was present on the day you got fired?
Mr. Williams, I need a moment. I mean, I never used to believe in this post-traumatic shit. But it's real. I mean, before I figured out the gloves, I could flash back out of anywhere. Nowhere. At the store, in front of my kids, at work. Anytime.
I'm sorry, Jesse.
You ever hear about the man who was drowning in the middle of the ocean, but he spent his few remaining hours trying to figure out which drops of water were to blame? You see, these companies, they may assume some liability for a few drops here and there, but they control the tides. They keep most of that catch. And floating in the wake are workers like yourselves who are blamed for swimming in the wrong direction and trying to figure out what went wrong, what they could have done to do better. Instead of leaving that rig to your workover crew, Oasis should have injected more salt water in that well, or brought in a flowback or a snubbing crew because they've been trained to deal with a well under pressure. And there isn't a blowout preventer on Earth or Venus or Mars that is designed to withstand that amount of pressure. And now if Brendan had just been able to zip line down from that derrick, you all three could have been running away with a clear conscience and some superhuman speed, I would imagine. And you remember this. Oasis should have injected more salt water into that well. They were responsible for finding out if that well had been killed. You suspected it was under pressure, but it was their job to know for sure. Don't you blame yourself. Don't you blame each other for what happened.